Andrew Bittner,
Atlas,
thanks for coming on the show again.
it's great to be here again.
Round 2, baby.
Something special came out in round 1. It's been growing.
Yes. We'll have round 1 linked in the bio. Highly recommend watching our first conversation. Covered guaranteed clean energy, and we covered the birthing of what is now the Home DAO.
Is now the Home DAO.
Yep. And now is the launch of the Home DAO podcast.
This is the inaugural
Yes.
Home DAO podcast coming to you live from Home DAO and my home.
Yes. Yep. And it's a launch also of the ecosystem, really, at the same time as it's the launch of the podcast, which is so exciting.
Yeah, this has been something we've been building now for 5 or 6 years, and now to be able to share with everyone the seeds that have been planted, to now see them as solid trees, and be able to now jump into the ecosystem of Web3 and share our ecosystem and how we think we can make a massive world difference is it gets your heart pumping with a little bit of joy when you start to connect all the dots.
Yep. And so this will be nice to share the message and the vision of Home DAO, especially using the visuals that we have created and distilled for this podcast, as well as for just in general branding and trying to distill down what the core mechanism is of how this is going to enrich the planet.
Yes.
And it's great that we get to both share this with the Home DAO podcast audience, as well as with the simulation podcast audience, to cross-pollinate also. So for those of you that are watching on simulation, I highly recommend checking out all the links in the bio to Home DAO, getting involved in the Discord and the community if it resonates, and subscribing to the YouTube channel. We'll have all these action items, including an epic NFT drop, multiple even. So sometimes I will be hosting the Home DAO podcast, which is really cool and an honor. Yeah.
And sometimes I'll be hosting it.
Yep.
Sometimes we'll have guest hosts. Sometimes we'll have one of our founders, Jonathan Huber, jump on and hosting.
Yep.
This is a community podcast. It's a community project. So you're going to see a lot of different faces.
Yes. Perfect. I actually have a nice bio of Andy that I would like to share with you guys so that you can get a better idea of really his heart. And so that you can get where he's coming from. So Andrew Bittner has been recognized nationally in the US for his work in streamlining sustainability efforts. He's the CEO of Guaranteed Clean Energy, which was recognized as the top clean tech startup in the USA in 2021 for building a FinTech platform that streamlines energy assets by making it financially viable for cities and school districts to be sustainable in clean energy. Most recently, he founded Home DAO, along with Jonathan, which unifies the best people, ideas, systems, and funding in sustainability, bringing real-world assets to Web3. And again, all the links can be found in the bio, including this bio that we just read. So we'll be talking about next-gen community in this episode, which is really at the heart of what the Home DAO is. I'm finding it important now that we've known each other for about 1.5 years and have been creating together to also share a brief recap also of like Guaranteed Clean Energy.
Yeah.
I've been here with Andy at his home for about 10 days now on what we call a heart sprint. And it's been incredible how many calls that he's been on with school districts and really just serving them as they desire to transition to clean energy infrastructures. And Guaranteed Clean Energy has formulated a powerful mechanism as energy advisors where they can help the school district find the money for the transition to clean energy. And so it becomes a win-win-win for the people, planet, and profit. And the school district and the kids especially are so happy in their libraries and gyms and classrooms with the new gen tech.
It's amazing to be able to share the behind the scenes vision of what we really actually get to do for communities, because as you were there in the office over the last week and you got to see the calls of communities saying, hey, we want to do this, we need help. And then listing off all the different items that they need in their communities for upgrades, whether it be LED lighting, insulation, windows, roofs, solar, or any of the above. It's so fun to have somebody else see after the meeting when our office goes, oh yeah, we're going to be able to get incentives for that school district and put 10, $20 million of infrastructure into that community.
Yay!
It's old hat for us because we do it every day. But what isn't old hat is when we finish those projects and leave those communities and see the look on everybody's faces where they really got a chance to share their vision and then see it built out from an advisor role where we helped them build it. So they actually are a part of the process.
Yes. It's
not a bunch of contractors coming in and then, when it's done, they're looking around going, well, what did they do? It's so neat to be able to just leave a community where they went, I can't believe how much we were able to do in 6 months. In 1 year, we did 20 years worth of work. And I think that that's probably the most rewarding part of the entire process and why we got addicted to serving communities in the first place. And then what they taught us has been completely transformative. And I think that has been part of the molding from Guaranteed Clean Energy as an advisory role to now when I was approached to be part of the home DAO on the development side of how to listen to communities. I said, well, I've been doing it every day for a decade. The biggest thing is really just to listen. And so let's build out a platform for communities to be able to talk and people to be able to listen, but then also to be able to build an ecosystem of developers, of individuals, of activists, the whole 9 yards, and build it from the inside out. And I think that's probably what I'm most excited about in the Web3 space, is that as a private entrepreneur, everything is always build it from the top down. And how do you scale it? How do you sell software? How do you extract the maximum amount of margin? And this is totally different. It's completely inverting the pyramid. It is saying, let's build this thing as wide and for everybody as possible. And let's have so much value on the base that everybody can participate. And it'll actually get bigger as well, too. And I think that that's the crazy part, is that you're going to start with a base of tens of thousands of people. And instead of that flow going towards 1 or 2 at the top, it's going to start with 10 or 12,000 and then move to 10 or 12 million and then expand out that way. So this inside out growth that we're experiencing in Web3 is just boggling my mind as somebody who's been in the space.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to be able to partner up with so many epic people that are just begging to talk to somebody and also great people that are willing to work together to build out communities from the inside out as well too. So it is just one of the most exciting times I've ever experienced in my entire life.
Yeah. It's really relatable to just envision yourself walking into school and the feeling of having next gen energy assets powering the school for yourself when you were a kid, as well as for your kids and their grandkids, etc. And then now leveraging this bursting ecosystem of Web3 to really, and all these partners. I'm so excited to unpack HomeDAO in more detail.
Well, and it's always been at a cost. Walking through or doing big construction has always been sacrifice over here to gain over here. And the incredible thing about the abundant nature of sustainability is that it is a win from day one. It is a win from day one, and it is a win from day one. And I mean that it impacts the people better, the planet is better off, and the cash flow is better off. And so you're walking into these brand new school buildings, and you're also going, oh yeah, by the way, the utility bills are smaller.
Yeah.
It didn't cost the school district any money out of their own pocket.
So cool. Just make pause. Such an important, highly overlooked point. School district, no money out of pocket, and utility bills are lower. What? Yeah.
And the place is squeaky clean, brand new.
Yeah.
And you get to share with the community the tremendous impact on the planet and teach that in curriculum with the kids.
Yes.
And all of the other impacts that happen alongside of that. And it's not just energy. I mean, we're talking about really holistic changes, getting into food, getting into water, transforming the way that education can function. These are all part of the things that we're addressing right now in school districts. But ultimately, HomeDAO came to me and said, hey, we want to do these things. And I said, well, I think we can do 4 or 5 of them because we do them every day. And so we can help. But at the end of the day, it's this helping mentality of we'll raise our hand and do what we can. And so many other people are raising their hands about what they love to do. And I think that's one of the other things that's happening in this Web3 space with HomeDAO is that so many people are doing passion projects rather than checking into a job and hitting the clock from 9 to 5. I mean, the people that we've talked to just in the last week, there's not a single punch the clock person, and everyone's leading with their heart and living in this passion filled world. And we did this week, and this is ever since HomeDAO has happened, but week after week after week, we're doing 2 or 3 months worth of progress in the traditional space, simply because the type of people that are in the Web3 space right now. It is so fun to work with such selfless people that are working in service to others.
Beautiful. I would love to launch into the first visual and then tell the story from that. It's a good segue.
It's very easy to talk about all the flowery things that we're talking about because it's something that just, as soon as you start talking about it, your heart just doesn't want to stop talking about sustainability or being part of it. But realistically, one of the things that excited me and why I wanted to be part of the HomeDAO was that it was way more than an idea. And I think that was one of the deciding factors for me, which was this is not just a concept. This is a platform ready as an ecosystem where we can come in and help. There are so many other people that are already here. And to be able to be part of a $200 million pipeline of sustainable projects when you walk in the door is pretty exciting as somebody who's in the space. Uh, and I think that that's probably the biggest thing that sets Home DAO apart.
Amen.
It's the people, but I mean, a lot. We're talking to other DAOs now, and the other DAOs have amazing ideas, and they're going to be able to roll those ideas hopefully into Home DAO, or we're going to help within their project and build things out. But I think the biggest difference as people really start to look underneath the hood on Home DAO now that it's out in the public, I think they're going to go, whoa. $200 million in projects, and you already have streamlined some of the largest developers in the United States that have already said, I'm in. I can't wait to help. What can I do? You're starting off at 80% done in this project from the gate, and then sitting back and now making sure that the community experience of who this DAO is really for, which is for the everyday person. The everyday person, not just in the United States, though, that everyday person in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, in Australia. This is for the people of the planet to be able to take back the ownership of these sustainable assets. And that also, I mean, it's just, how can you not be part of the Home DAO when that's what the mission was? And so I had to be a part of this once I found out what it was really all about.
Yeah. The most important part of that visual is that bursting pipeline of projects that is already there in comparison to where so many other DAOs or entrepreneurial endeavors start off, which is usually just at the seed of the idea. But then the second core component of that is the partners section, which is that green section that you were also talking about, which are the developers.
Yes.
And it's so beautiful because these engineering, procurement, construction folk are the ones around the US and around the world that have already learned the processes about next gen energy assets and how to implement them in the areas. And then there's an inclusive stakeholding model with the Home DAO that makes it a no-brainer for them to get involved in this pipeline.
Yes.
And it just creates a powerful ecosystem that's unprecedented. I want to ask you a question about the pipeline of projects.
Yes.
So how does the pipeline of projects get actualized? So there's 200 million plus in the pipeline of projects. So we're talking already, let's say, schools and municipalities that are ready to come on board for next gen energy assets.
Yes.
So what is needed?
I think the easiest way to describe it is to describe what's done in the traditional world, and then now what's possible with Web3 and where it's headed, which is also why I couldn't say no to the Home DAO. In the traditional world, when we have a large-scale project that would be freeing a community through energy independence and producing food on site and all these different things, in one perspective, it's so exciting for that community. Their costs are going to be way lower. They're going to be resilient. They're going to be able to have all of those assets on site. So in the worst case scenario, they're still going to have power and food and communication and education and still be able to function through their community, which is unbelievably powerful. And I think we're seeing with what's happening geopolitically, how useful that can be as we sit here in a wartime. But what happens, unfortunately, in the traditional world is we package up those multi-million-dollar projects and sell those back to banks. And we sell those back to utility companies. And so
you want to avoid the $200 million pipeline funnel to be centralized again through banks and the old ways.
Right. And I think that that's what really touches a lot of people's hearts in this, is that traditional way, as much as you're helping decentralize things at a level, it then still gets centralized. And so being able to then step into and transcend that model as you step into the Web3 space. Now you're talking about the ownership of and being part of the community in these projects, being individual people, not being giant corporations, not being the banks or the utility companies. And although they've been tremendous in helping build some of the infrastructure and get us to the place that we are, I look at those institutions sometimes the same way I look at coal. Coal was amazing.
Industrial Revolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Transcend time.
Absolutely amazing for a very short period of time until we realized that there was a more efficient and effective way. Renewables across the planet now are almost 50% less expensive to build than a coal power plant. And it's clean energy versus coal energy. So it's just a complete no-brainer. That, for me personally, is the same thing about Web3 and being able to decentralize the ownership and community aspects of these models so that you can decentralize a community from its freedom and sustainability side, and then also have inclusive stakeholders in that community that can also be part of that project and spread that out amongst many, many, many individuals, which is just amazing.
So then the pipeline of projects is, in a sense, being saved for the proper tokenomics for it to then be deployed with.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, the amount of projects that we have is consistently growing because right now we're not putting any of those projects to work in the old model and ramping up this unbelievable amount of energy that is potential energy to be able to just come in and possibly become, I mean, Home DAO realistically from the lens that I get to see it at, it could become the largest utility company in the world and not be a utility company. And I think that's one of the most exciting things that I see. But we also are looking at objectively as engineers and as financial people and as the CEO of a traditional company, I'm going, there's just nothing like this that I've ever seen in the traditional space that can exponentially grow this fast. But it makes sense. In the traditional world, you make money based on the amount of value you deliver to the marketplace. There are a few outliers that do things differently in that space, but for most people that start businesses and most entrepreneurs, they are rewarded for providing value to the marketplace. And when you get to transcend it and transcend all of the old systems and step into DAOs with decentralized autonomous organizations, split up the ownership to everyone, and then simultaneously be able to serve the world.
Yeah.
The value to the marketplace is just unbelievable. And so I think that that's exciting. And I think for us, the cool part is it's not it as much as we love Bitcoin. I've been around it for a very long time. This is not a project that is selling a token for hopium in the in the Web3 industry, right? This is a project that says let's bridge the gap between pure speculation on what a system could look like, and let's just bridge it to real projects in real communities that are delivering real value. And again, that was just this overarching thing of all of the developers across the country that are now working together through Home DAO. We all just look at each other and go, how do you not be part of this? How do you sit down for an hour, learn about this, and not be part of what could be the greatest thing that ever happens to humanity?
As we like to say, it's impossible to not be involved.
It's impossible.
Yeah. Beautiful. And I would love to share the ecosystem visual now. I think it's a great segue into that. So now you guys will get to see the ecosystem visual, which I feel like does an incredible job at distilling such complexity, just down to relatability. Yeah, beautiful. And so I think it's also nice for you guys to, if you would like to, you can visit the homedao.com, and you can actually see the visual there on the website. And you can zoom into it as you'd like to there, and be able to read it more easily and follow along more easily. So we can begin with we've conveniently numbered, we've created a trail for you to follow with the numbers in this loop.
Yes. So we've started with 0 and traditional format here of some of the deeper understandings that we're all going to come back to and start at 0. But the main starting point for a community project is its community. And so the home token itself is all community oriented. It's an opportunity for everyone to become involved. We are going to have an NFT launch that is going to be the first availability to have access to those home tokens. But more importantly, you've got to see the art that is being created. We are working with a truly phenomenally gifted artist, and we're going to put some of her work up on our Twitter and start sharing some of that. And so the artwork itself is so connected to this mission. We're going to be honoring 11 of the great people in the history of humanity to get us to the point of sustainability. And so that'll be fun. And then I think there'll be some good arguments on our Discord about a lot of the people that we left off. Like, I can't believe we left off Buckminster Fuller, one of my favorites. I lost the battle, but this is part of DAOs. This is part of voting. It's fun. But ultimately, the community, I think, is the big key when it comes to starting this project. And the community is all about being able to share that governance and then be able to share the impact on everything. I learned a long time ago when I did my first project for a school that doing a project and listening to your client is totally different than doing a project and getting done with your project. Because we used to do specialized engineering and lighting projects and sustainability projects for Fortune 500 companies and larger entities, and it was sterile. You do your work, you do it fast, you do it right, and then you get paid and you get out of there, and that's the end of it, and you go do it again. Fortune 500 companies are not teaching you. They're not teaching you how they want it to be. They're not teaching you the most efficient and effective methods for their facilities. They want you in and out, and everything's proprietary. With a school district or a city, you come in and you're building a project for them, and their community is telling you what they want. And so there's this constant feedback loop that is 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 opportunities in each project of feasibility. This is what the community wants. Feasibility. This is what the community wants. This is how it works from the financial side. This is how it works for the people. This is how it works for the planet. And we learned so many things. And that's what happens in the community element of the home DAO. And so I'm so stoked to be able to just imagine what ideas are going to come through our community and how many people are going to or have had the best idea for 10 years and haven't been able to do it because they just haven't had a place that they knew they could trust to bring good ideas and know that it would go to the world and not be in a position where it was immediately going to get swept under the rug or bought by a large company and buried. All of that is completely a new opportunity for the world to be able to share something like this and be able to take that idea and put it onto the blockchain so that it never leaves and is never hidden is a really cool concept. So that's just one of the amazing elements of community. We were also talking to some people last night in California that are developing new ways of governance through different NFT ways of rewarding participation, and some of the most innovative ways that to me are simply as close to being able to rewrite the US Constitution as I've ever seen, and being able to liberate and free people, but also share opportunities for governance. And so that's a huge part of community as well, that naturally out of this sustainability mission, we're going to also uncover some of the other most amazing ways to serve communities. And so we're talking a lot about community because it's the most important one. We'll go through the other ones pretty quick.
I really like how you highlighted that in all of the different areas of the earth, there will be a unique, creative roaring of the community.
Yes.
And that's a very important part. It's like, what does the grassroots want in each area of earth?
Yes.
Because it's going to be a color palette in each one of those areas. And it's very important to offer the big buffet of clean energy, food, water, internet, education, healthcare, housing. And then from that palette, they can cater it to exactly.
Yeah, we're not dropping an American buffet on Africa. We're going to cater to what the community wants. And that is how you develop a real impact.
Like, for just as a great example, we were talking today about a high school that is actually very interested in the agricultural permacultural component for teaching their kids and for having food forest local right there.
Yes.
And so that is very unique to that school.
Yes.
Right? To that community. And this is just an example of a unique component that can then be applied to what the community wants through this DAO mechanism.
And what the community wants. And we're going to design a different permaculture in Arkansas than we are in Michigan.
Correct, because you have the climate zones, you have so many variables. And let's hit the visual again, because we okay, so one more thing I'd like to mention about the visual is that you'll see that there are the four, in addition to the trail of numbers that we've created, there are four primary components, starting with the treasury, the developers, the projects, and the next gen assets, and then the loop. And so keep in mind those four primary enlarged components, and then the number system that loops you around. Great. So we started with home token, 0 at the top. Community shared account used to build ecosystem, discounts, incentives, strategic alignments, voting power. The treasury itself being funding, community governance.
Yes.
And so then what happens in the application? You have $1 million solar array for community partners, either a school, a municipality, hospital, thinking these large community impacts, and this strategic DeFi funding. So how would this work?
Yes. So, the home token is there to be able to talk about sustainability, make sure we get the feedback. It's really that utility side of the Web3 world that community is built on. And then you've got the other side of the process, which is the actual building of the infrastructures themselves. And so there's a separate token for that. We call it the utility, YOU. And that's because it's designed for the individual person to be able to be part of that process. And so that token will launch in the future once we address all of the legal standpoints that we need to address. But right now, the most important thing is that we have a large enough community that we can legitimize our governance principles, make sure we have a large enough community to do voting. I do not want to be the only voice in these things. I've seen how that goes wrong in so many other projects. Unfortunately, we already have a very large development team that has that impact. But then what it really gets down to is let's build some projects in some communities.
Perfect.
So number one, the application, and I think in this visual, the best thing that we did here is just say, look, let's assume $1 million solar array being built for a community partner. That community partner, a school district, a city, a hospital. Just think a large community that can receive a big time process here. And we're using a solar array because I think clean energy is a great analogy for sustainability, but it's not just energy. We are talking about food. We are talking about housing. We're talking about clean water. So many other different aspects of this piece. But again, solar arrays are a great, easy thing to understand. And so if you're going to build $1 million solar array, no different than purchasing a house, there is a down payment when you're building infrastructure. And so one of the things we can do is tap into the treasury of those utility assets to be able to afford to get the project going. And this is one of the biggest issues right now in the sustainability world, is coming up with that upfront capital to build projects. The traditional world doesn't want to do it. They consider it a higher risk type of scenario because they don't understand it. And anyone who doesn't have an understanding of something is going to feel as though it's a higher risk. Reality is different from perception. And so the beautiful thing is that it's an opportunity for the DAO to step in and be able to help strategic partners like developers solve their number one issue in funding. The other side to it is DeFi is unbelievable resource in this transcended world of Web3 and crypto. And so we can also leverage DeFi platforms to be able to get loans to do the back half of projects, which are tremendously helpful in not having to spend all your capital at first, because these assets, like a solar array, produce revenue. And the revenue that they produce is significantly larger than the loan payment on the $700,000 development cost that you're taking the loan on. So on $1 million project, you may have a loan for $50,000 a year to pay back principal, but your revenue may be $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year. And so it's a no-brainer to build these projects. And at the end of the day, the developers don't want to be a bank and a funding company and all of these other things. They want to build sustainable projects. And engineers and construction people are very good at engineering and construction. Give them a holistic, oh, now you have to be a bank and a credit union and do all these other things. And it becomes very cumbersome and very difficult to take on that opportunity and manage millions and millions and millions of dollars. And so that's what this Home DAO ecosystem does, is it allows everyone to be who they want to be in sustainability. If you're a fantastic developer, come on in. If you're an amazing electrician, come on in. We need you. If you're a school district and you want to go sustainable, come on in. We want to build sustainable assets for you. And so wherever you find yourself in this world, there's a place for you in Home DAO. And so I think that's probably the most exciting part for the developers once they get underneath the hood and have been looking at this.
And before we continue on to developers, I really want to highlight the point that has been made in this top right corner that we're in with the application and the strategic DeFi funding, which is that the primary question that's asked is how to pay for the $1 million solar array. This is the primary question.
Right.
How to pay for the next gen asset.
Right.
This is the primary question. And you addressed it, and I feel it's important to just highlight it.
Sure.
Which is that the loan is $50,000 or so a month, as just an example, or a year.
Whatever it may be.
Whatever it may be. But just to say that that's then able to be paid at, the principal is able to be paid at $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year, because instead of taking the energy from the utility companies, electricity, natural gas, water,
yes,
instead of taking that from them, now we have solar array or wind or CHP here,
yes,
at school or municipality, hospital, etc. And then the money that's usually paid to the utility,
yes,
is paid at, which we'll get to, at 10% less than what it used to be to the DAO itself.
yes.
Okay, that's the core part that then pays off. So the questions usually that are roaring at this part is, how does
a school come up with $1 million to build a project? And that's what this solves. And that's one of the functions of this DAO, is the DAO is saying, we'll get the $1 million for you and help you build this. And then we're going to help the developer have that capital up front to be able to start the construction and buy the solar panels and fill out all of the forms and go through. And a lot of people don't realize you have to pay on $1 million project. Sometimes you have to pay $80,000 to $100,000 just to get the project paperwork started, to get it approved through code, and sometimes through those centralized utility companies, to make sure that it's safe to go in that community. And there's a lot of good reasons for those costs as well, environmental studies and other things, but they have to be done up front. And again, that's a barrier that we wanted to eliminate, so that this process, this ecosystem, can be completely streamlined for the community, for the developer, for the home DAO, and so that the people can then receive those benefits. Because ultimately, the beautiful thing is that instead of the school district paying their utility bill every year for that, to that centralized utility company, and that money being gone, we're presenting a position where that school district could literally pay itself if they were token holders.
Yes.
And that is an unbelievable concept when
Beautiful.
You let that sink in.
Yeah.
And so that's where we really enjoy.
Come on
in.
Yeah.
Come on in. Once you take it out of that world and transcend it, you really start to see why the world is going to change in such a beautiful way. And I think that's a lot of what the developers are experiencing now as well too. Because if you're a sustainability developer out there and you're hearing this, I want you to know that you are going to receive streamlined funding with speed and certainty. And if that doesn't get you excited as a developer, then you haven't been doing enough business. Because that is what the developers need. They need speed and certainty, and they need to be able to have that streamlined funding process, because there's so many developers right now that have amazing projects, but because of how slow the system is, it takes them a year and 2 months to go through. And time is money. Time is money. If we can get this done in 2 months rather than a year and 2 months, that's a game changer. And that's another thing that the Home DAO ecosystem does for developers. So
that knowledge,
come on in,
is so good. The best practices, so good. Cool.
And then when it comes to that implementation, there are huge advantages then for developers to not only have the utility token side, but to be part of the community. And so home tokens and being able to have that feedback on how to streamline processes, how to govern ourselves, how to build and where to put things is a massive part of this. And I think all the developers are realizing they can join what will be the largest non-utility company in the world by joining in as part of the Home DAO token. And so
good.
It naturally incentivizes everybody in the ecosystem for the best designs, products, contractors, the installations to be the cleanest and fastest, and then overall optimization. And it just gets better and better and better the more projects that happen, because it's all happening in a sharing ecosystem versus a proprietary patent everything, lock it in a box and don't tell anybody what we're doing type of system.
Beautiful. Love that.
And out of that comes amazing projects.
Yes.
Amazing, amazing projects. And so that's where, again, I think the Home DAO, that's what hooked me. It was this group of individuals is not starting from scratch. They are starting with all of this potential energy of 200 million in signed projects from real communities and cities and school districts across the country to be able to make a difference. And the key is, though, those community partners will pay less. They will have clean energy. They will have sustainability pieces, and they will be that beacon that embodies sustainability in that community. Their kids at the school are going to be learning about sustainability because the solar panels on the roof. They're going to be learning about healthy food because the tomatoes are right outside the door. You just can't miss it. And that's a big part of what's been missing. You walk into a school 10 years ago, and it's a brick building with flickering fluorescent lights and their boxes, and the grass may be mowed, but that's about it for permaculture. And the world that will exist because of what the Home DAO is doing, and so many other people in the ecosystem are going to be able to bring. You're talking about community centers being utopias is the closest thing I can think of it. I mean, Imagine 20 years from now, the utopia that would be if a school district had all of its food produced on site. It had infrastructure for clean water on site. It had infrastructure for clean renewable energy on site. You're talking about game changer types of opportunities. And that is what can happen today. And I think that's the other cool part. It's not crypto where it's like, just, buy a magic internet money token and see what happens. Buy this dog coin. This is saying it's real. These are real projects. This is just leveraging the efficiency of community and the efficiency of the blockchain for actual use cases. And that is the most powerful thing. And I think that's going to be the next big movement in the whole crypto sphere is use cases of these blockchains. And we are going to be leading the charge with one of the most exciting use cases on the planet, sustainable assets. And so that's what really comes into play here with these next gen assets. And as much as we are excited about bringing on developers who have interesting ideas, there's also this idea of community incubator within the home token ecosystem. And so you're talking about people that have an amazing idea, having a place to launch it, and having mentors here in the community to ask questions and grow and build things. I've been an entrepreneur in the energy space for 12 years. You want access to me? Come to the Home DAO Discord. I'm right there for you. And there's 20 other guys just like me. Can't wait to help you.
Yes.
And that's what this is all about. Inventors. used to have to hide all their stuff and trying to not trusting the patent office and not trusting that if they had some game changer world innovation, they had nowhere that they really felt like they could be trusted to bring it to the world. Talk about an innovation. That is the Home DAO as well. So whether you're a startup, an innovator, you're an activist, and you just want to go out and you want to share the mission that this is the only planet that we have, there is no planet B, come to the Home DAO. We need you too. You're an amazing marketer. You're great at web design. This is a passion project for you. Come on over. Yeah. We need you too. This is a mission to take all of the most beautiful things that we can do and help launch it and build it and bring it. You're an artist. Come on in. Whatever you think you can give to this ecosystem, we are willing to receive it. And I would imagine you're going to receive it tenfold from being able to share the gift as well. Yep. And so that's, I think it's been my personal experience ever since I got brought into the fold here. And I can't, I feel like I'm already living heaven on earth through this. Yep. I'm Amen. Living in the journey.
Amen.
We always talk about, human beings always just want to get to the end. And I think I'm finally in that personal place where I realize it is all about the journey. Yeah. It's all about the adventure. And this is the most exciting adventure that I've ever felt in my entire life. And I want to share it with as many people as we can because it's a no-brainer, right? This is a win-win-win for everybody, for people, for the planet when the planet needs it the most. And it is profitable, so we can keep spinning the wheel and keep doing it over and over and over and over again because it's all a beautiful decentralized ecosystem that you can spin the wheel. The numbers guys look at this thing and they go, oh my gosh.
Another way to say it is grow the pie and increase the shares for everyone.
For everyone.
Yeah.
For everyone. And one of the other things that we're really excited about doing within the community is having the educational curriculum so that when you're part of the Home DAO, we're also sharing, hey, I came up with this amazing way to grow beets in my backyard. Hey, I have this amazing innovation that can help you get an extra 20 miles per gallon on your car. Whatever it may be, we've got an area for these educational curriculum and also attracting some of the greatest minds of our time on this podcast. Yeah. We've started with a very low bar with me, and we're going to build to some brilliant minds in the future. And I think that's also something that our community can get behind in realizing how good of an interviewer you are and bringing on some of the top minds in philosophy, in spirituality, in energy, in quantum physics, and so many other aspects of the world. And so I'm really excited to see the people that are going to be attracted to the Home DAO podcast and share their ideas with the community and the world as well. Because obviously our podcast is going to be open to everybody to come along and be part of this. So we've
envisioned it like a magnet. The podcast is a big magnet for attracting these greatest people to get involved in the Home DAO. And it's just a perfect way to tell the story.
Yeah.
And to be a magnet for the attractive force into the vortex that is the Home DAO, into the torus that is the Home DAO.
Yes.
It's so abundant. So this is it's a great mechanism. I love it.
So if anything is come up in any of the listeners' minds today as we've been talking, if you've been thinking about anything, we've got a really easy access to get involved on our website. It's got the links to the Discord. Discord's the a really easy way to communicate. But good old fashioned contact us on the website works. Come take 2 seconds, send us your idea, tell us about what you want to do, come get involved. And at the end of the day, we're going to rely on the community, and that first way for people to really get involved in a big way is through the NFT drop. And if you follow our Twitter and our Discord, you're going to get to see a lot of the artwork that is coming out, and you've just got to experience this artist. Her work is so deeply ingrained in love, and we've had several calls with the artist, and she and her team are some of the most giving, loving people that I've had a chance to experience, and only through Zoom calls, and they've touched me in beautiful ways. And so the artwork and the NFT drop is going to be a great way to kick off this to the public and get involved in the project.
Yep.
And then from there, look out, because my goodness, we're going to need so many people helping, because it's going to grow so fast.
Yeah.
And that's the fun of it. This will no longer be 50 people's project. It's going to be the world's project really, really fast.
Yeah.
And we're just going to do our best to make sure that there's as much love in it as we can.
Yep. Mm. What a powerful first episode.
Come on, everybody. We can't wait to meet you. We can't wait to hear your ideas. It's for all of us. It is the opportunity of a lifetime, and at the same time, it is one of the most crucial times in the history of humanity to take care of our planet. And simultaneously take care of ourselves at the same time as we free this planet and build generative, sustainable systems. We need to do that same thing for our basic needs in life.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that I learned through COVID, it was, oh my gosh, I am not prepared to take care of myself. I am completely reliant on massive centralized systems to take care of my family. And what an eye-opener for somebody who's in the sustainability world, who thought he had it all covered. Couldn't have been more wrong. And so I'm glad that I had that opportunity for self-reflection during a really challenging time. And now it's time to break out of that, and let's go celebrate. It's about to be spring. That's a big deal here in Ohio, where our headquarters is right now. So the flowers are going to be popping out about the same time as the community is popping out with Home DAO. So it will all coincide in a beautiful way.
So perfectly articulated. Yeah.
Come on.
Planet Earth. Come on. it's impossible to not be involved.
It's impossible to not be involved in the Home DAO.
Perfect. All right, everyone, you know the drill. You can find all of the links in the bio below. Get involved. Highly recommend checking out the Home DAO YouTube and subscribing there, and following on Twitter, and joining the Discord if it feels relevant. Also, it's very powerful to share this conversation. So if the video brought you value, you can like it. That helps the algorithm, but it also helps to share the actual conversation itself with friends, family, etc. on social. Because that is a catalyst for other people to see what's happening here and to get involved. one of the most powerful things you can do is to share it also. And we love you so much. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We hope that you feel what's manifesting here, blossoming from the seed, and how it can really serve our collective.
Yes.
And that's all.
Can't wait to meet you.
Thanks, everyone.